It is time to talk about the Magic's biggest problems as they get closer and closer to the playoffs, what they have to prove tonight against the Clippers, today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is March 29th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to talk about the two biggest problems facing the Orlando Magic and why it is completely in their hands to fix that and prove that they can fix it the rest of the season. We'll handicap the rest of the race. We'll talk about what the Magic have to do themselves as they play these final 10 games. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. Inevitably, I have seen this point come up over the course of these games and throughout the course of the last few weeks. You know, anytime you mention any stat that the Magic have had, and, you know, we have to admit this too. We have to talk about it, say that too. But anytime you talk about a stat that the Magic have had, and how well they've played since the All-Star break, they've won 10 of their last 14 games. This isn't like the time to panic about the Magic, but it also kind of is the time to panic a little bit about the Magic. Time to ask like a very serious question. Why are the Magic struggling against good teams? Like, why are the Magic struggling against good teams? Since the All-Star break, they have played, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams with winning records. They are 2-4 in those games. And with wins over the Cavs coming out of the All-Star break, potential playoff opponent, don't sleep on that, as well as the win over the Pelicans last week. The Magic are 2-4 since the All-Star break in games against teams with winning records. For the season, the Magic are 17-24 against teams with records better than 500. That ranks 8th in wins among Eastern Conference playoff teams. As noted, as clearly believed, the Magic have dominated teams with records below 500. Like they dominated those games. I think they're 25 and I want to just make sure I have my stats here. 25-6 against teams with records below 500. Only the Boston Celtics have more wins against these teams. Now, look, we're not sitting here saying the Magic should be above 500. You know, there's only 3 teams in the entire Eastern Conference, 3 teams in the East that have records that are better than 500 against teams that are better than 500. The Boston Celtics are 31-13. The Milwaukee Bucks, at least entering Thursday's game, were 25-19. The Indiana Pacers are the only other team with a winning record. So to be able to consistently beat good teams, to be able to consistently beat the teams at the very top of the standings, that's the elite stuff. And so it's worth noting and worth saying that, yes, the Magic are struggling against good teams. They're feasting on the bad teams. They're struggling against the good teams in this league. But that's kind of what the regular season's about. Is finish 500 against those teams, feast on the bad teams. If you do that, you're gonna be the spot the Magic are in. It's essentially what's happened. But obviously, we're getting to the playoffs. Obviously, if the Magic want to have success, if the Magic, and look, they've proven they're capable of winning these games. They beat Boston, they beat Milwaukee, they beat Denver twice. They've beaten some really good teams this year. They beat Minnesota on the road. They've beaten some really good teams. The Magic are capable of winning these games. But we are getting to the playoffs, and it's how you perform against these opponents that matters most. Because you're going to have to beat these teams 4 out of 7 times in the series in order to advance. And this is an area where the Magic still have to grow. They struggled early in the game against the New Orleans Pelicans. They struggled early in the game against Sacramento Kings. They struggled early against the Golden State Warriors. They struggled early against the New York Knicks. Against the, they were really good early against the Indiana Pacers, but struggled in the second and third quarters. The Magic have found themselves oftentimes over pressure and sped up against these really good teams. Against these good teams. Not always really good teams, but good teams. And so the Magic have to find a way to dictate the flow of the game, to dictate the tempo of the game. Health matters. Being healthy, having their full lineup, that matters. This is a team that, as much as we want to talk about their depth, and they have the 4th highest scoring bench in the league, their depth gets stretched real thin when they're missing guards. As much as we want to talk about their guard depth, Cole Anthony is not a starter. Caleb Houston is inconsistent. Markelle Fultz is Markelle Fultz at this point. The Magic have a problem here. It's one that they're going to probably have to wait till the offseason to resolve as they add more depth and add more veteran leadership and add more veteran players. But the offseason ain't going to solve the problem now because the Magic do have a tough schedule coming down the road. They do have a tough schedule the rest of the way. This game Friday night against the Clippers is really important. If the Magic want a 6-2 homestand, if the Magic, we always said coming into this homestand, the Magic needed to split these middle 4 games. They're 1-2. That makes Friday a must-win game. They have to continue to prove that they're capable of beating good opponents, elite opponents when possible. They'll get their chances. They will. They're going to get their chances against these solid teams. We're going to see, the only team, after Memphis and Portland, the only team left on their schedule with a losing record, or there's 2 teams left on their schedule with a losing record, Charlotte and Chicago. Chicago's still playing for something. And so the Magic are going to find themselves in the same situation that they were Wednesday night against Golden State the rest of the season. They're going to be playing teams that are playing for something, that are desperate for wins, that are trying to fine-tune themselves in the same way the Magic are to varying degrees. And the Magic have to be ready for that. The Magic have to be able to step up to the plate. And that, frankly, does start with how they start games. That starts with how they open the game up. Do they punch first? That is the big question. That is what will be necessary for them to take this important next step, for them to be ready for the playoffs, what we ultimately want to see from them. That's what's going to be on the line here for the Magic moving forward. They're going to have to win these games at some point. Like that's the truth of it. And it's not something that I am overly concerned of because they've shown us they can win these games. They're struggling with it right now. Maybe a little too comfortable, maybe sitting at home a little too much. Certainly, I think that the days off hurt them against Golden State. They've proven they can win these games. But the NBA season is about proving it consistently. Every night, every game. And that's been the Magic's problem. Because they don't see these teams a lot. Or haven't seen these teams a lot during this stretch. They have another chance to prove themselves Friday night. The Magic have another issue they need to resolve. It's time to talk about the free throw problem. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. A lot of us, when we're working from home, when we're just home from our day, we might throw ESPN or Fox Sports on the TV. And I know when I do that, I have to turn the volume way down because the shouting just stresses me out, and I don't need that stress. It's sports. It's not that important. We don't need to shout at each other over it. Let's watch things play out. We don't have to. It's dumb. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today and get the sports coverage the way it was meant to be, with local experts who know their teams inside and out and share that perspective with you. Locked On Sports Today is a 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. That's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Orlando Magic have a free throw problem. And it's not just that they made only 11 of 21 against the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday, a big factor in their loss on Wednesday. This has been a recurring issue throughout the season. This has been something that has held this team back. I know I've said it to people that I sit with at games. I know I've said it to everyone that I can think of. The Magic are going to lose a playoff game because they miss free throws. And maybe that's the only way this issue is going to cement itself. You know, maybe Wednesday will do it and they'll focus a little bit more and make sure that those free throws go down. I'm expecting a good free throw game on Friday. But the Magic have to make free throws. This team needs it. And at the rate this thing is going, yes, a game that should be a blowout could become close in the playoffs. And like we said, the margins for error in the playoffs are really small. The difference between winning and losing is very small. And so this stuff matters, for lack of a better way to phrase it. This stuff matters. Making free throws matters. So here are the numbers for you. The Orlando Magic have spent most of the season leading the league in free throw rate. They have a 29% free throw rate, which means roughly they get 3 free throws for every 10 field goal attempts. That's pretty good. That's the tops in the league. It's been tops in the league for most of the season. Paolo Banchero gets the line for 6.9 free throw attempts per game. That is 10th in the league. Despite the Magic's prowess at getting to the foul line, it is an essential thing in their offense. The Magic don't shoot a lot of threes. They put a lot of pressure on the rim. They put a lot of pressure on the paint. Getting to the foul line is essential to the offense. When the Magic get to the playoffs, they're going to have to get to the foul line. If they don't get to the foul line, they're going to be in trouble. But despite getting to the foul line for 24.6 free throw attempts per game, again, leading the league, as much as everyone wants to talk about the Lakers, the Magic lead the league in free throw attempts per game. Maybe not differential. That's where I think the Lakers lead. But despite getting to the line the most times per game in the league, and they're even 6th with 21.3 per game since the All-Star break when fouls have started to come down, the Magic ranked 28th in free throw percentage. They make 75.1% of their free throws. That may seem small, but that is leaving a lot of points on the board, like leaving 10 points on the board in an 8-point game. The 52.4% free throw shooting on Wednesday was not even the worst this season. They shot 8 for 18 in the February loss at Atlanta. And granted, there was a lot of fatigue in that game. So it was at the end of a road trip and a busy part of the schedule. But And that game ended up being a blowout, but it was close. And early missed free throws killed them, just like early missed free throws killed them against Golden State. Magic were 5 for 11 from the foul line in the first quarter. They were 6 for 10 for the rest of the game, which isn't good either. But if the Magic, in a 3 for 22 first quarter, when they score 11 points against Golden State on Wednesday, if the Magic makes some early free throws, that might loosen up the offense. In fact, you always hear it all the time. If you're not making your jumpers, get to the paint, get to the foul line, to see the ball go through the basket. But since the Magic were missing free throws, you can see how tight everybody was getting with their shots, even though the Magic were getting some good looks. This is the problem. Free throw shooting may seem very small, but it has humongous effects. Missing a free throw at the wrong time or splitting 2 free throws at the wrong time stunts momentum. It means you're not getting the full point that you should get for getting to the foul line. Orlando this year has had 4 games where it shot worse than 60% from the foul line. They've had 19 games shooting worse than 70% from the foul line. Now, they've gone 11-8 in those games. So 19 games shooting less than 70%. They're 11-8. This team can still win without it. And I still think that is still the humongous takeaway. That the Magic, despite a lot of shortcomings, are in a lot of these games. They were down 1 with 2:41 to play against Golden State. Despite their bad shooting, despite their free throws, they still had a chance to win. And that tells me how good this team is. But the missed free throws also tells you how much better they should be. I didn't calculate this, so I'm not going to pretend to know, but it certainly does feel like, let's say there's 4 games, 5 games even, that the Magic could have flipped into a close game, into an opportunity to win if they had made their free throws. Maybe there's been 2 games that the Magic struggled to finish with the lead because they missed free throws. If the Magic make their free throws, maybe in those 5 games, they're 3-2. 3 more wins. 3 more wins puts you in the race for second instead of the race for third or fourth. This stuff matters. As much as we want to talk about the big things like late game shots and all this stuff, making your free throws is probably the biggest small thing you can do. And as I mentioned yesterday, free throws have nothing to do with the defense. The Magic will get to the foul line. We're not worried about the Magic getting to the foul line. Free throws have nothing to do with the defense. Because the defense ain't guarding you. They're free. This is all about you. This is all about the team itself. This is all about the Magic taking care of their business. I could share all these stats. I can share all that for you. But the fact of the matter is, the Magic need to make free throws. Like, it's a simple thing. And it's one of the biggest problems the Magic have. They got to make free throws. Just plain and simple. They have got to make free throws. And if the Magic want to win these games against these strong opponents that they're facing, we know they'll cover for each other. We know they will fight. Effort is rarely the issue with this team. This team is good enough to win. And I know I've said this the last 2 days. I want to repeat this. The Magic should feel like they can win every single one of their last 10 games. I'm predicting that they're going to go 6-4. I think 7-3 is possible. I think 5-5 is possible. If they go 5-5, they're sitting in the 5 seed, maybe 6. I don't see them dropping below 6. I'm fairly confident about that, although Miami has a very home-heavy schedule. They go 6-4. They might climb to 4. They might not. The Magic should feel like they can win every single game the rest of this year. But it starts with them taking care of what they can take care of. And that is free throws. First and foremost, above all else. But like I said, the Magic do indeed hold destiny in their hands. We'll talk a little bit about what's ahead of them coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver who likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Classic exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It has room for up to 8 and expansive cargo capacity and advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop online today at nissanusa.com. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends at Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. And at this time of year, you got to be ready for all the sports you can handle. We got the tournament going on. We got the NBA playoffs coming up. Baseball just started. Check out our friends on the Locked On MLB network. This is a great time for sports. So you got to have the TV. You got to have the app on your TV that can get all those sports to you. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports fans, all for free. That includes all of us here at Locked On, and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences too. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, from March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. Learn more. Visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. So having said all this, I think it's really important to remember that these games aren't the season. I think it's really important to let's take some perspective here. The Magic have won 10 of their last 14. And yes, all four of those losses were to playoff caliber teams with only one win against playoff teams. We understand that the Magic have feasted on the weak part of their schedule, as they should. Don't apologize for that. The record is real. They've won 42 games. They're on track to win possibly 48 games. The record is real. The Magic have proven they can beat good teams. But we recognize that, yes, they feasted on some really bad teams, and they've got a lot to learn ahead of the playoffs. We're not going to sit here and deny any of that. But it's important to remember here that despite everything else, despite how down you might feel, that the Magic have lost some of these games, that the Magic haven't gotten like that consistent marquee victory. They lost the big game against the Thunder way back when. That the Magic have put themselves in a position to control where they end up. Orlando is a game and a half back of Cleveland for fourth, 2 games back in New York for third, 3.5 back in Milwaukee for second after the Bucks beat the Pelicans tonight, and 2 games ahead of Indiana for sixth. 3 games ahead of Miami for seventh. Remember, the first tiebreaker, if head-to-head doesn't work, is division champion. So staying ahead of Miami is really important. In essence, what I'm trying to say is the Magic are as close to the 3 seed as they are the 6 seed. Whether the Magic are looking at a race where they're trying to catch somebody or they're fending off the team behind them, it's completely up to them. And that's the theme for the final 10 games of the season. The theme for the final 10 games of the season is and has to be about finishing strong. Can the Magic finish strong against quality opponents, against the Clippers, against the Pelicans, against the Rockets, the Bucks, the Sixers with Joel Embiid? Can they finish strong and put a cap on a really special season? I think it's very easy to try and race ahead and say, what's next? And look, I'm not going to sit here and say we're not in the moral victory business. Being close enough isn't good enough. And we'll see how the playoff series plays out. We should be disappointed if and when they lose. Yes, because it should leave you hungry for more. But I think everyone wants to race ahead to the next part of next part of the puzzle, and that is figuring out what this team needs, which, again, we don't know. I know I've said this a million times. It's hard to predict what the Magic summer is going to be right now because the playoffs are going to tell them what it needs to be. We're not going to know. We're not going to know what this team needs till after the playoffs. So I'm excited for the playoffs, win, lose, or draw, just to get this information, just to see, okay, let's see who steps up to the plate. Let's see how defenses defend this team. Let's see what we really need besides shooting. But ultimately, we have to start with these 10 games. We have to start with proving that the Magic can beat quality opponents night in and night out, and especially on the road. And the Minnesota game was a nice win. Denver obviously was a great win. Who are the other big teams the Magic beaten on the road this year? Magic have been very good at home. Very, very good at home. But the Magic, this young Magic team still has a lot to prove. And they should be going into these games and going into these feeling like they have that chip on their shoulder, that nobody believes in them, that everyone is still scoffing at the fact that they are the 5 seed, that they are very much on track to win the Southeast Division for however much that means. It means a lot for tiebreakers, guys. It is important. Destiny for the Orlando Magic is completely in their hands. What they make of this season, where they finish, and what bar they set for themselves moving forward. And they should be looking to set the bar as high as they can. It should be, this stuff is not supposed to be easy. So set that bar high, know what you can achieve, and keep working to get back there. The Magic have 10 games left now to show us who they are, to show us if they can compete at a higher level, if this group is so much better than any of us expected. They have 10 games to show us what they're capable of doing. And they are capable of doing a lot. I have no doubt of that. I have no doubt that this Magic team is going to be in the fight for third and not the fight for sixth. Sorry, Indiana. We love you. Hopefully we see you in the playoffs in Orlando for game 1. I do believe in this team. But like everyone else, they want to see this team prove it. These 10 games, these final 10 games, however the Magic want to break them down, these final 10 games are the Magic's chance to prove that they're ready for the stage. And that's the thing none of us really know yet, that we're eager to see coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them we sell podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And also be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub. You can find extra articles and content there. Go to patreon.com/OrlandoMagicHub. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back tomorrow to break down the Magic's game against the LA Clippers and see how they did against one of those really good teams that they're facing. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.